Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is the Dave Emmons Strange Reality Show, and I have a great guest from the UK. And we've been talking the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I think we missed an opportunity or two, and now we're finally caught up. I guess because of me playing musical chairs with different networks, and then finally ending up back doing my own show because I guess I'm happier doing it this way. But if you listen to other shows and watched other shows, you'll know that I have usually people who are scientific and they're educated in the areas of UFOs, ETs, cryptids, Bigfoot, and also people that are very now this person I'm going to be talking to is very prominent in the UFO field, and she's from the UK, and she's got a lot of documentation, and she's actually been proven to be a contactee, and she's got a lot of stories to tell us. And we're just wanting to be careful and cut the lines really smooth here about how much she can say and how much she can do. So we're going to be limited on her bio. I don't want to go into her bio. I'll let her do that more so because there's certain things she can't talk about. But I'll just tell you that she's born in the UK, and I'm not going to tell you her age. And she was 6 years old when she first was abducted. And like I said, this is a Dave Emmons Strange Reality Show, and my guest is Tina Bird. And I've been looking forward to this interview also because she has the documentation. She's going to show you a few things on the screen, and we're going to be talking about all of her experiences. And it's very, very unique person, and she's actually had documentation that proves a lot of her experiences. So that's a great thing to have. And she's a great experiencer, and we're going to have some stories to tell you. So listen up. And Tina Bird, I want you to finish out your bio. Tell us what's going on with you, and you're an author also. So let's talk about all that.
Thank you, Dave. It's great to be on your show here from the UK. My name's Tina Bird, and to answer a few questions in the bio, I'm in my 50s. I currently work at a zoo. But I'm an international author, and I've written 3 books now. So it was The Checkpoint, my new book, which is The Bonded, and The Guardians of Light and Brotherhood of the Night. I've written that. I first came forward for help. People say, "Oh, you're abductee, a ufologist." I didn't want to be any of that or be a part of the ufology world. I simply came forward to get help for me and my partner. We had serious health issues, and I looked. There was no one in the field in England you could turn to, so I didn't really know what to do. So I looked online, and a gentleman called Gary Hesseltine. He's a policeman. He's just released a book about Rendlesham Forest incident called Non-Human, I think. And he said, "Tina, I don't deal with abduction, but I know a gentleman who does." And he put me in contact with a gentleman called David Hodrian. He's the chief lead investigator for Birmingham UFO Group, and he is also vice chairman of ISER, that's International Coalition for Extraterrestrials, for the UK. Gary Hesseltine's the chief of that. So they both helped me look into my case. And it went from there. And David asked me the same things about my background. There's certain things I cannot talk about. But my first experience, as David said, it happened when I was a child, when I was 6 years old. People say you're a negative person. No, I don't talk about other people's issues. I don't really talk about my issues. I tell people about things I've seen from my point of view and how I personally feel about what's happened to me. So there's nothing extra. No, there's no extra. There's I'm a no frills girl. You get what you see, and that's it.
So yeah, I want to add also, Tina, that since you're a TI, you're a person of interest, a targeted individual, and because of your past and some of the people you know and met, there are certain things you can talk about. But if she could talk about all that, I'm sure we would go into 3 hours instead of just maybe 2. So, but we're not going to talk about that. And I don't want to get, I really don't want to get in the weeds. with all this top secret people or groups or whatever. We want to stay clear of that. We just want to tell the truth. And Tina's going to be telling the truth about her experiences. She may touch upon some people that she might be able to talk about. But Tina, to start with, coming forward, as you say, how and why? Tina Bird, could you tell us that?
Yeah, certainly. So in about 2000, I thought my experiences would stop. You know, you think you'd have one or two, or you don't know they're going to be lifelong, or they're going to be reoccurring, and you don't, you know, you think the last time is the last time. You don't think it's ever going to happen again. And I thought I was done with all that, and it left me alone, and I kind of put it all behind me. But this particular evening, I went to bed with my partner as usual, and out like a light. The next thing I know, something was different. I tried to, my eyes were open, but I couldn't see, and it was like my eyes popped forward. They were bulging out of my head. I was laid on my right side, looking at the right side of my bed at the wall. I was in a king-size bed, and there was about 2 feet between my mattress and the wall. So I was laid in a fetal position, looking right. The bed sheets were pulled back. I was in a fetal position, and there was a bluey green light in the bedroom wall, and I'm not quite sure if it was coming from the floor or where it was emanating, as I couldn't move my eyes or my head. My eyes were in a fixed position. My partner was missing, and stood literally, if I could have moved my arms, I could have reached out and grabbed it. Stood about 2 feet from me. It was no taller than the end of my bedpost. I don't know why people call them greys. I've never seen one like this. It was pure glowing white. It was about the size of an 6 to 8 year old child. Extremely thin. Its head, its neck is in the middle of its head. Ours come slightly forward. This thing went straight up, and it was, from the position I could see, I couldn't quite see the face. It was like at a slight angle. Its head looked like a biscuit tin from the side with a wraparound bandage, and the back just looked like someone had put marshmallow or mashed potato on the back. I couldn't quite see, but the skin was smooth, very extremely thin, and it bent down. It wasn't aware that I was kind of awake or had come round. I couldn't move. I could only just focus. I couldn't blink. And it crouched down to bend forward, and it bent just below where our hips would be, and like a funny movement forward. And it was looking at, I had 3 pictures and some dolls behind on my bedside cabinet and in my bed nightstand, and as pictures of my dogs, my huskies, and this thing was bent down looking at these pictures, and then it stopped. And on just the movement and the way it stopped, I knew it knew I was awake, and everything just went dead, went bright white light, nothing. The next thing I remember, it's morning, daylight, and curtains were open, and my partner sat up, and he's physically sat forward, holding his throat, and he says, "My throat hurts and my bottom hurts." First words out of his, and I thought, oh my God, do I tell him what's happened? Does he remember? And I questioned him a little bit to see if he'd remembered anything. He didn't remember anything, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to say anything. I didn't want to frighten him. Just put it behind us. I didn't remember. All I remembered what happening was me waking up on the bed and this thing there, and my eyes bulging forward. And then within a couple of days, I didn't feel too good. Our health, both of our health deteriorated. I was having aches and pains, a terrible chest pain. I started to cough up a bit of blood. My partner started to lose a bit of weight. Then within the coming weeks, we were dramatically losing weight, chest pain, like my nails were flaking off, losing bits of hair, vomiting blood. It got to a serious point. So I went to see the GP, and I said that I'm not quite sure what's wrong. Something's obviously wrong. He said, we'll send you, you need to get that looked at. He said, we'll send you to Southampton General Hospital, and we'll send you for a endoscopic. That's why they put the camera down the throat to have a look, see what's going on. So I said, fine. And then they booked me an appointment. The next day, I took my partner down because he then started vomiting blood the day after me. He lost a lot of weight, and I did a couple of pounds. I'm talking stones. In such a short time, he was having chest pain, and he physically looked withdrawn, and his skin, it didn't look right, and he looked awful. So I went to see the same doctor again, and she's like, okay, send your partner. And our appointment was, I think it was about a week apart. So I went first. About 2 weeks later, a little while later, I went to the hospital. They took me in the room, and they lay you on this like bed, this hospital bed, but they have big TV screen in front of you where you can view what's going on. So I was awake because I'm allergic to anaesthetic. So they just give me some stuff down my throat, lay me on my side, put this like strap around me, and they put this camera down my throat through a little thing in my mouth. And you can see inside your body in front of you. And there's this Professor Brian, his name was. The professor was there with about 3 or 4 technicians, 2 nurses, and a couple of students. So there was a lot of people in the room. And as he's putting this down and he's just talking to me, and the guy's tapping my shoulder, reassuring me, it's okay, just keep breathing. And he says, oh, stop. He said, what is that? He said, get a piece of that, get a piece of that, get a piece of that. He said, we'll have a look at that. We'll biopsy that. He said, I've never seen anything like that. He said, it's quite far down in your body. It looks like black tissue. Normally they can tell the difference between blood clots, dead tissue, and that. He said it's actually black tissue. He said, and they took pictures and video, and he pulled the camera out, and he said, did you feel fine, and how long's this been going on? And I said to him, a few weeks. Didn't tell him that I've been abducted or anything. And he said, we have these samples, we're going to get them tested. He said, it is serious because we don't know what it is. He's given me a prescription for pain. He gave me a prescription for, he said, we're going to give you ulcer medication. He said, that's the only thing we can give you till we can find out what it is. So he said, I will see you in a month's time. He said, I'm going to call you back we'll do another one to see how it's getting on with the meds and how things are. I said, fine. And he gave me a printout. He said, this is a printout of what we found there and then, how deep this thing is inside your body. He said, it's quite deep down inside between past your gullet and your liver. And he gave me a little thing on a yellow piece of paper. And off I went. Well, within a week, 5 days later, I went back. This time I was with my partner, and I was in the same waiting room. And luckily, the professor, not a nurse, the professor came out and said, oh, I said, Tina, what are you doing here? He said, oh, are you ill? He said, would you want to come through? I said, no, you'll see my partner today. He said, sorry. I said, this is my partner. He said, you two live together? I'm like, yes. He said, you two have the same symptoms? I said, yes. He said, have you two been on holiday recently? And I said, no, we haven't been on holiday in years. Haven't left the country. He said, right, okay. And you both live together? He said, I said, yes. Well, they took my partner off. He was gone a little while longer. And they said the same thing to him. He had these, and I had marks and scarring at certain depths within my body, which is what they took pictures of. And when he came out, the doctor said, could I speak to you both? Just give us 5 minutes. And we went into his waiting room again, and he called us into another room, and he had pictures on the wall. And there was 2 gentlemen with him and his assistant person, like a consultant. And he said, you two have identical marks at the same depth inside of your body. They're not explained by anything. We've not seen anything like this. So we've taken samples from both of you and we're testing them. However, we'd like your partner to go down now for blood tests. And we want you to come back in 2 or 3 hours, as we think you have some type of, not radiation poisoning, but we think you've been exposed to something, but we think your partner may have cancer. He said, we're going to prepare you for the worst, but we're going to hope for the best. Well, this went on. So we went back. My partner had a printout and I had a printout, and it went on even to this day. He still continues to lose weight. He looks like a skeleton sometimes. And they said that they think he got cancer, but they can't find it. But each time we've had an episode, his liver enzymes, as were mine, off the scale. So if you have a blood test after you're taking your find that your liver enzymes were off the scale. So that's how come that I knew something had happened. And then I said to my partner a couple of weeks later, because we thought it was the end for him. That's why I went forward. So my next step, I said to my partner, look, I think we've been abducted. This is what's happened. Do you remember anything? He thought I was crazy. He just thought I was making up to make him feel better because we thought it was the end. And he didn't really want to accept it. So I thought, who do I ask? Is that, I've never told anybody this. I've lived all these years. I don't really want to tell anybody this. Excuse me. I looked online, researched it, couldn't find nothing because there's nothing in England. And the name that kept coming up was a gentleman called Gary Hesseltine. So I think I got his telephone number and I messaged him. It took me about 2 weeks. I think it was in November 2016. I was dilly-dallying about and I messaged him and he actually got back to me about a week later. I just thought he was going to think I was a nut. And he said, Tina, I don't deal with abduction. You need to make an abduction report. I said, what the hell's that? How do I do that? Who do I speak to? He said, this gentleman, here's his telephone number. It took me at least another 2 months to get the courage up to phone this gentleman, David Hodrian. And when I did, he spoke to me for about 3 hours on the telephone. He reassured me that they had another similar case with a gentleman in Australia because he does he investigates worldwide cases. He said, I'm going to get hold of a few contacts and see how he's doing. He said, I can't guarantee anything. And sometimes it doesn't look good when it's, you know, when it's like that.
Tina, can I take you back into this story?
Yeah.
You said your partner, he doesn't recollect anything.
No, still
his brain was probably totally erased.
But I do have evidence. I have the pictures on my thing I could show you of our scans. So I do have that.
And did they find radiation? You mentioned it, but did they really find it?
My dog died of radiation poisoning.
Really?
Yeah. He was 10 years old. He was fine one day. Went to call him in the next day. Laid out there, got up, staggered in, came down, laid down, and he died.
Oh.
10 years old. He was in very good health.
Maybe the ETs didn't like him being around.
I don't know. That was devastating. I was out still to this day, devastated me. And then in England, they don't do like autopsies on animals that cost you a fortune. I said I want a blood test done because they said they wouldn't do scans because he'd seen the vet for a full MOT and scan. He was microchipped and everything. He'd seen the vet less than a week before for his yearly everything. He was fine, good bill of health, nothing at all wrong with him. To suddenly, and he'd had a blood test, like a yearly blood test, not 6 months before that, nothing wrong with him. How can you go from having nothing wrong to something wrong with your cells in your body within 6 months and just dropping dead?
Well, it's not uncommon. Usually they leave your partner alone in bed and then they have one person that they're targeting. That would be you, more than likely. And what they've done, test on both of you and done this upper and lower GI type of thing. I guess what I'm saying is they erased him totally, but they left something in you and you saw something going on, so you know what you're relating it to, the ETs. But as you know, our technology has also been back engineered to where us humans can actually almost go through an abduction process.
I can say there was another incident with my mother, I think, where that actually happened, where I saw two men with pig's masks on. I think they were American. Someone said they may have been Canadian, but I don't know the accent. And when they took me and my mother, and that frightened me to death. And I'll go into that later, but it was nothing like that. When you've been taken, I think the only reason I remembered is, one, I'm allergic to anaesthetic, and two, where I've been in their link so many times when they've taken me, it doesn't affect me as much or the way it should do. I don't know, but I also have my ovaries is negative blood group, so whether that has anything to do with it, I doubt it. But yeah, I'm allergic to anaesthetic, and a lot of things do not work on me. So from what I can gather, they put a certain type of pheromone in a frequency of light to subdue humans. That's how they subdue humans. Right. And I learned that. That's something I learned when I was in their link.
Right. And light can actually read your memory. They can actually erase your memory with light going through your eyes. And yeah, they can do that. And we have the ability to do that. Yeah. And ETs are probably millions of years ahead of us. So they know how to do this in a dreaming fashion. They can just not even be there, be invisible and do this stuff, Tina.
That would explain things. I've seen hundreds of people say, what's special about you? Absolutely nothing. I've seen hundreds of people up there, that, like next to me on this like conveyor belt thing. They were all awake but asleep. They were all been put in front of this light, and I've seen there's hundreds of people up there. So I know I'm not the only one.
Wow, have you approached any of these people, Tina, that you might have seen?
No, but the same I went to. So this was years and years ago. So I had excuse me, that's not mine. I was recently asked to go to one of the biggest first UK abductees meetings. It's a private enclosed meeting. I had to go half out the country for it. And there's people I've never met before. Actually, two people I've seen before. One gentleman knew, he was a friend that I made over the years, going to seeing David Hodrian, and that he was a male abductee. He knows me and my partner quite well. So he had a motorcycle accident and he was there. But he was saying, look, the biggest case in the UK, apart from Rendlesham Forest, abduction wise, would be Tina. And he said, I'd like just to show you some of her images she's drawn. And I drew this image of what they showed me, or this black pod, where they had, I didn't realise, it wasn't until I touched it, that they were growing babies, clones. They were clones of me, these babies, hundreds of black pods. And they were all female. And they'd shown me what was in these pods. And anyway, when I woke up, and he was talking about my my account, this lady just gasped, because I thought originally she was talking about her son, something that happened to her son on a cruise liner, and she just gasped. And I said, oh, are you okay? Have I said something that would upset you? She said, I've seen that image you've drawn. She said, I didn't realise that. She said, I thought there were, all I was told that there was fairies inside. She said, I didn't realise there were babies, because they look like black metal shiny pods, you know, like coffee cups, a bit like this in the 60s and 70s. And when you put coffee in them, they go black. That's what these pods look like. She said, I didn't get to see it. It was only because I touched the top of it that I saw this baby.
Now, and these pods are on board these ET craft?
So, yeah. Oh, they've got hundreds of thousands, millions and millions of people's eggs up there, but I'll get to that. She then pulled her trouser leg up, because the next picture he put up, she had on Tina's right leg, she has these holes that they were scientifically measured, looked at and everything. She then pulls her trouser leg up, and she stood next to me. She has exactly the same holes in her right leg at the same length in her body and the same depth in.
What do these holes look like? I mean, they're just like typical.
There are my pictures, so we'll have a look.
Okay.
I took pictures, circled them so you can see them.
All right. I have holes in my legs too, usually in my left leg. That's happened several times. So that's why you and I are drawing parallels here. The thing about your health, now that's 7 years ago where you had that health issue. Now, is your partner and yourself, are you okay now? Do you have any after effects?
Yes, my partner's still having problems to this day. I've had major other problems with other things going on, and yeah, I think there's a lot of side effects from being abducted, and it was recently revealed on News Nation in the United States, because we've had a severe news blanketing here in the UK for a few years, and it said that they could tell now just by a simple brain scan whether you've been abducted. So, because it physically damages your brain, it biologically damages your brain.
I saw that.
So would explain, when I had my brain scan last, they freaked out a bit and they just kept asking me if I was okay, and there was a bit missing at the back of my brain. There should have been fluid, and there's no fluid in there. And so it explains a lot of things. My blood test and my liver's off the charts. I have my teeth. I had a picture of, I couldn't share it on there, but you can look up my case file with Birmingham UFO group contactee cases, where my teeth dissolved. They used to drill into my teeth, and it felt like metal ants gluing them back together like crumbled chalk. And something happened one day, and it was like metal. I don't think it was near a magnet or something. I'm not quite sure where I was. And my teeth just crumbled in my mouth down to the root, and it just disappeared, and it just got fractured, came apart, crumbled down, and that was it. And I had blood come out of my mouth. But I took pictures. I took pictures of it. And
that sounds like radiation, Tina.
Yeah, I did have my friend bought me a Geiger counter because I lost my nails, and I've covered this side of my hair up because my hair goes right back. I have hair loss all the way up here, and this side a bit. And I had like problems with my skin and my nails for a while.
But, now you say there's high liver enzymes.
Yeah.
How do you relate that to what happened to you, Tina? What do they do?
So it wasn't until I was older. When I was younger, I don't remember a lot. All I remember was them burning holes in my leg, and I couldn't feel it, and I couldn't smell the burning, and it was like points of jelly. They were probing my legs inside, And then when I was older, when I came round, when I was, I will not, you can't say you wake up, it's like you come round or something happens. And these things, these three beings were next to me there, and I was laid like at a 45-degree angle on this metal bench, and the one that knows me was next to me, and I kind of opened my eyes and they were there. And what had happened was they'd touched something in my chest. They had this little machine here, and I've got a scoop mark on my chest, and you can see that's on one of my pictures, and it was spurting blood, and my blood hit one of them, and they freaked out. And then I couldn't quite see because I couldn't, you can only see out your eyes. You can't look around, you can't do anything. And then when the one who knows me was next to me, when they lean over to you to look at you in the face, it's not to frighten you, it's to see if you can talk to them. And when they quite talk to me, I've learned now that when even if they're in the same room as me, I can link to them straight away with no problem now. It took me many years to figure that out. I don't know how I knew it. It just took me many years. And then you're in their link, what I call the Wi-Fi. The little ones don't link. They never linked with me ever in any setting at all. The one that knows me links with me straight away. I'm probably presuming because he's done it so many times. But and the link, what I call it, the link, the Wi-Fi is different on every ship. It's like a different scent or taste in your head. And so it is very, very different. And when they start talking to you and you're in their link, you stop seeing out of your eyes. Anyway, something else must have happened, because I'll start seeing out my eyes again, and then I could see them lift this machine from my stomach, and it looked like I'd got a wire going into my belly button, and one looked like just down between my legs, but I couldn't see because I was lifting it. And then
you just mentioned the machine across your belly. Travis Walton said the same thing in his experiences. There's some kind of machine. Yeah. But he said they were resuscitating him because they electrocuted him too much and stopped his heart, so they took him on board to save him.
It's a funny place to save you, over your stomach, but
yeah. Well, no, it was a machine. It was, I guess, over his midsection, and they were using it to bring him back to life. I
had one on my tummy and one on my chest. I had two because I couldn't quite see, so it wasn't so lifted up. But I have spoken to Travis. I've met Travis a couple of times, and he's given me some words of advice about regression and things like that. And I also met Whitley Schreiber as well. He was a very nice gentleman. But getting back to that. So when I was awake, he wanted to ask me a question. So he leant closer to me and he said, this little one, one of the little ones that don't link, came up, was about the size of my hand, and he was like holding it to holding it up to my face so I could see in my eye. And the big one said, I had to cooperate. If I had to agree to cooperate, he said, I need to give you clone blood. And I was frightened. I didn't want to have it. He said, if you don't have this, you're going to die. I presume it's because of the bleeding. It was like bleeding over this little one, and it was freaking out because my blood was on him. And I couldn't freak out. I had no emotion, no nothing. But I knew I didn't want to have this blood. But he read that the second their instinct changed, he knew my instinct was like a question, and he answered it. It was so quick. He was like, no, the blood's not going to hurt you. Look closer. And it's like I was zoomed into the inside this packet. It was like a clear, thick fluid. And you could see all these like blood cells. They looked like blood cells, but they were all white. This bag was white, and all the cells in it were white. And he said, that's clone blood. And when it goes in you, it will stick to your blood and stick to your blood cells, and it would take on your DNA. So it's like empty blood. He said, but we need to give it to you. And then he wasn't too sure about where to place it. And I just showed him a picture in my head of me having blood taken. And I presume it all went bright white light. I just presume that they put it in, and that was that. But then when I came back, your liver, because 22 is considered high in one of your tests. Mine was 148.
Ooh, wow.
So they said that that's near transplant territory for the UK. I'm like, yeah. So
so is that kind of close to liver cirrhosis, as we
I have that. I have scarring of my liver. They said that they found 3 lumps inside my liver. They thought was fatty tissues, but there's no way of getting to them unless they cut my liver open. They didn't seem to be grown, but there's 3 lumps in there that they found. They said they're quite happy to leave it in there, and I'll be under the liver clinic for the rest of my life.
Wow. Why do you think I haven't had an ET experience like that. I felt a little bit of pain and shocking through my experiences, but I've never, you were talking about the negative side of these abductions and being a contactee, where these ETs are actually doing some damaging things to you. Do you know why they're doing the damaging or the negative things?
Well, the problem is people say it's negative experience, but when you wake up and these things are happening to you, right, just see it from my point of view, right? So I'm a 6-year-old child, right? Then I'm a teenager, then I'm an adult. So what friendly race or what exceptionally intelligent race would come into our world unannounced, uninvited, come freely unimpeded to your home and your local airspace? Nobody in this world was protecting me. The Air Force wasn't protecting me. NASA, the British government wasn't protecting me. They then come under the guise of night. If you were friendly intentions, you would at least do it during the day. It's less hostile, less threatening, and less covert. You
Right.
then take a child, a baby, a minor. They probably did this to me as a baby. I have no idea. And they take a baby under the guise of night without your parents' consent, put you on a table and burn holes in your legs. Now, if I went to a high street, took a child, went back and burnt holes in their legs and put them back, I would be done for war crimes against humanity. I would be done for child abuse. I would be done for abduction. I would be done for torture. Who is
Tina, could you tell me, what are they doing when they burn the holes in your legs? What are your thoughts? I know you're communicating. You say that you have some communications with these ETs. Do they ever tell you why they're doing it? Are they taking out plasma and replacing it with DNA?
Well, I'll get to that bit in a minute.
Okay.
I got to know.
All right.
But when I was 6, my first recollection was I went to bed. I had this pink long nightie on and went to bed. And I just wake up suddenly. I got out of bed. I felt so alert, like really alert, like electricity alert. I felt highly alert. Looked around my house, looked around my bedroom. I could hear my brothers breathing in the next room, and I can hear my mum and dad lightly breathing and snoring in their bedroom. And I took one step towards the threshold of my bedroom. Then I took another, so like I'm on the threshold of my bedroom to go towards the landing. The bathroom light was on, and then all I know, the next thing that happened was this light. This bright white light shot through from the ceiling all the way down to the floor. It was bright white light. I don't know how long it was there. It was just there in front of me. I didn't move. I could only look. Couldn't think. I was numb, couldn't do anything. And then the next thing I know, this giant face appeared, it was made of light, cross between like Father Christmas and what you called Socrates now. It just looked like an old man, really. And then I'm not sure what happened, but I could move. I turned around to run into my bedroom and the light overtook me and I don't remember nothing. The time after that is when I had the holes in my legs. And then what that is when I woke up, it was like in a white room, bright white room, and I was on a bench. And then there's this orange light above me, like a bright orange ball of light. And I was set up like at a 45-degree angle again. And there was this black grid. I'm not sure if it was a light or an actual black grid on my legs. I couldn't lean right forward. I couldn't lean over my belly to look. I was naked, didn't have any clothes on. And this thing came down, I presume from the light. And it looked like it was drilling holes. So if you lit a match, this is the colour of this thing. And if you put a match in your jelly and it didn't smell, that's what it looked like it was doing to my leg in different spots of my leg. It was just doing stuff in these grids on my leg. And that was it. But I couldn't smell the burning. I couldn't feel it going in. It was completely numb. All I could do was watch what was going on. I couldn't say no, stop. I couldn't wiggle my toes. I was 6 years old. My parents weren't there. You can't think of anything like that. And they never told me what was going on. Next thing I know, I wake up in my house. I can't say mum, dad. I don't really remember like the next couple of days. After that, I remembered. But you can't say mum, dad, these creatures took me. I'm not sure what happened, but they were stabbing me in the leg. I didn't have any marks on my legs at the time. So you can't, and again, it leaves you after a couple of days as a child, it leaves you.
Right, yeah.
And as you say, like for bone marrow and things like that, it wasn't until I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I had the same thing again as an adult. They took me You don't expect it. You think it leaves you. You can either have a run of 2 or 3 days, nothing for months, or once or twice a year, then nothing for years.
Right.
And I was at the point where nothing had happened for years, hadn't even thought about it, hadn't even entered my mind. And then one night, woke up really alert, bright white light, flash of light. Next thing I know, I'm in the same room again. I'm on the same bench, no clothes on. This thing's drilling holes in my legs in the same place. And you could see the burning. It was like, it was the same thing happening all over again. And then, and I got like a flashback of what happened to me as a child. But it wasn't till I had my hysterectomy. Then I think a lot of things changed. Lots of things changed. The way my doctors spoke to me, the way the consultant never came back to the hospital. It was a different person that came to see me. They shut a whole ward down when I went back with my mum, whole floor, which normally had thousands of people on each day. There was no one there apart from me, my mum, and this woman I'd never met before. By the way, that's on video at the Princess Anne Hospital in Southampton, because everything's recorded there because they've got cameras up.
Oh, can I ask you, now in your 20s, you had these holes burned and you were abducted. How do these holes, I know you said you didn't feel them because they had you probably anesthetized, you were out. And they know how to do it with magnetic energy. They can use your brain to do that. But now after the holes, the next day when you noticed the holes, did they itch or did they burn?
Well, no, I didn't. It was nothing. I didn't feel nothing because I don't remember doing anything apart from I had like at the time they didn't bleed. But when I got up to walk out, there was this tiny bit of. My dad noticed it. Tiny drop, one drop, and he searched my room because he thought I'd stabbed my leg at night. He searched everywhere and he put detox on it. No, never. But I woke up one morning with a terrible stinging in my bum, my right hand cheek of my bum, right in the cuff of my cheek, and I thought I'd been stung by a bee or wasp in the night. I got my husband to check. He's like, no, and he went off to work. And this thing stung like mad for the whole day. It was getting worse. It's always on a Friday. And I put some cream on it. And I could feel something hard under the skin. So my husband came home. I tried to phone the doctors, couldn't get an appointment. Friday night, it's about 6:30. And he came home and I'd got out on the bed. I put some Dettol out, some tissues, some cotton wool, some nail clippers, some tweezers. And I said, you got to get this out. I didn't just cut it out. I said, it's absolutely killing me. I said, I put antiseptic cream on. He said, I can't see anything on your bum. He said, there's no sting marks, there's no cut marks. I can't anyway. I said, look, just put your finger on this spot. And he did. He said, I can actually feel that. He said, you should go to hospital. I said, I'm not going anywhere. I want it out now. And it was stinging. And it got worse and worse. And he's like, no, I'm not a doctor. I said, look, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. And it's going to hurt twice as bad. And it's going to have a terrible scar. So eventually he agreed to do it. He used the nail clippers to cut the skin on top of this lump because you could push this lump. He said, I don't know how this lump got in there. It must be something that's come up from the inside. Anyway, he got the tweezers and he was pulling it about and he cut it again and he went quiet. And I said, you're right, have you got it? He said, is it still stinging? I'm like, yeah. And I felt a bit of pulling. And then the second I felt this pulling and he goes, oh my God. It stopped. The stinging stopped. The second this thing left my body, it stopped. I knew before he even said a word, it was out. The stinging just stopped just like that. And then I flipped over on the bed and my husband's there with this like pair of tweezers and this thing with it in his hand shaking. And I said, what's the matter? And he said, inside your bum's pink. He said, but this is, there's like a black grey webbing, like a membrane material. Mm-hmm. And I said, he goes, it's come out like a giant bogey kind of snot thing. It was like I said, cut it open, see what's in it. He said, oh, he got the nail clippers and he cut this thing and it broke the nail clippers. And when he ripped, it's like a bit of sinew. When he ripped this thing open, there was a tiny silver ball about half the size of a match head. He said, I don't know how that got in there. He said, I don't want to know. We're never talking about this again. He freaked out. He wrapped everything up, took it down and flushed it down the toilet. And
no.
He said, yeah, he said, don't ever tell anyone and we're never speaking about this again. And he freaked out. He really freaked out.
Yeah, he should have taken some pictures of it. Yeah. When I was younger, I had an implant. I was too young to even know what to do. I
had one of my hand since removed. You see that scar there?
Where at? Okay, there. Yeah.
So yeah. I had like a stinging and I went to grab a door handle and it hurt. Felt like someone stabbed me. and it went down. It's what I thought, perhaps, you know, you'd done something to it. And it happened again. And then when this lump come up, I went to push the lump with my finger and the lump moved. So I phoned the doctor and it went down and it started stinging like that thing in my bum did. And I phoned the doctor. I said, look, I've got this lump or something in my hand. It's really hurting. She said, come down, Tina, I'll have a look. And when I went down there was nothing, no lump, nothing. But the doctor started pressing it, and all of a sudden this lump popped up in my hand. She said, oh, it's like an organ in your hand. And she went to touch it, and this lump moved. And she looked at me, she said, that's not normal. She said, I'm going to make you an appointment. I said, all right, okay. I said, can you do something with it today? She said, no, you're going to have an MRI on that. I said, okay. I said, when? She said, tomorrow. She said, go to hospital tomorrow, take this bit of paper. I'm phoning him now, and you're going to have an MRI. You're going to go in the microwave thing, you know. So okay, went in and they taped. Next day, took the letter with me. It was expecting me. It was an outside body scanner, and they taped a like a cod liver oil tablet to my hand to put it in so they could mark the spot because the lump wasn't showing. And so I went in like a Superman pose into the machine, and they come out and they said, there's something in your hand. We're going to send it off to a specialist and you'll get a phone call. So this was Thursday or Friday morning. So the day after I had my scan. So on the Wednesday, I saw the doctor. The Thursday, I had my scan. Friday, the hospital phoned me. Monday morning, 9 o'clock, I was in having an operation. They didn't put me out. They put a big tourniquet on my hands. There was two surgeons there, injected my hand. The nurses left the room. There was him and this other bloke come out from behind the screen. He said, don't move my hand, cut my hand. And he lifted this thing up. I was laid strapped down. He lifted this thing up and it was exactly like what my husband had taken out my bum. Really? And he put it into a jar, sewed it up.
Let me make a clarification. When you say bum, a lot of people in the States, we say butt. Or booty, or you know, if you really want to get streetwise, it's your ass. You know.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
But this is just for clarification, you know. Yeah, because I'm used to interviewing UK people, and they have certain nicknames and certain slang words that a lot of times Americans say, "What is she talking about? A bum?" And it's the butt. Okay. Okay. All right, Tina, continue.
So it's the same thing they took out of my butt that they took out of my hand. Yeah. And he said, we've had to take a lot of material out. He said, they give me an x-ray after to make sure everything was fine. And he sewed it up. They put this, well, my hand was like a bright, they put the iodine on you to cover my hand up. And then they put a pressure bandage on. He said, we'll take the pressure bandage off in a day. He said, because it was quite deep, because it's right next to your artery in your hand. He said, there's a bandage underneath. We take off in like 2 days. You see a GP, and then you come to see us in a week. Well, I went home that night, and all of a sudden I saw this bright white light. Woke up, and didn't feel anything. I just woke up really alert. Went to sit up, and my hand had been hurting me all night. The hand wasn't hurting. It was still bandaged up. And I thought, what's that? As I looked down, there's one single drop of blood at the bottom of this bandage, this, you know, the thick bandage they put on. So as I turn this bandage up, I see this thing. I thought, oh no, I've either bust the stitches and the blood's running down my hand. That's what I thought had happened. So I thought, I better go and see the doctor. So as I went down to see the doctor the next day, I made an appointment to see my GP. I said I had surgery. I said, I think I might have bust my stitches during the night because my hand's not hurting anymore. And there's a tiny one drop of blood. Because I've got 2 bandages on, I don't know if it's bled down the internal bandage. I'll have a look. He said, I get the nurse to come in. Came in and they took this bandage off, turned it up. And then I had a hole in my arm there. But then it came out the other side. So there's an entrance hole that goes completely through my hand. And it goes right through. I've got pictures of it, and you can actually feel the hole that goes right through. And they thought I'd had impaled myself on something. I've got no nerve damage, doesn't hurt at all. It's just a hole that is, they think it might, they don't know how it got there. But the interesting thing was when they x-rayed my hand a week later, the thing was back, and it was right up against actually physically between my nerve and the blood supply. They can't take it out.
Oh wow. So these ETs know how to do it, I guess, and make it permanent. I think I had the same thing. I have an implant in my thumb webbing, and they took X-rays and they saw it, but the doctor hasn't talked about removing it yet. And I thought,
They said don't remove it, leave it. If it's not hurting you, leave it.
it does hurt me, just like you were saying. You turn the doorknob or something, it hurts.
Oh yeah.
Tina, I wanted to talk to you. You also were talking about getting back to your physical problems now. You said you still have high liver enzymes. Is there anything else that you're left with, like some kind of a physical problem, Tina?
So I have loads of. I had to have one of my organs removed. I had to have a hysterectomy. They've had to remove part of my bowel. They've had to remove this sac that my organ sat in, and my pelvis is completely obliterated from right to left with thousands of needle marks. So I have that in a picture of a documentation of my discharge notes from hospital. Right. I went in.
Did you want to get to any of those pictures now? You want to try that?
So, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a share. Tina's gonna do a share and open up her folder that she's got for you. She's gonna show you some. And I know people are interested in explanations of what ETs look like, and also with the ships. Have you ever seen a ship up close?
Not from the outside.
Oh, okay.
I've been in plenty, but I've never seen. I've been up close with one on the outside. So okay. I'm going to go to this one first. So. Okay. So I don't know if you. Oh, 1 second. It's just loading. It's just taking a couple of seconds on my end.
Yeah, sure.
So this is what it looked like after. I was told that this operation was going to take an hour. I was told it was going to be a like, you know, just tiny little cuts and little slits, and that was it. This operation took 8 hours. I had 267 stitches, and what you can actually see there is staples across my stomach, and 22 staples and a drain. So I'm supposed to have just a little day surgery with tiny little holes, hysterectomy. When they got in there, what they found said absolutely shock them. And I'll go to another picture now, which is.
What's that dark? Is that a draining hose? That dark thing?
So that black thing's a tube sewn into my stomach to drain the cavity. They had to take my womb out, the cavity it sits in, a piece of my bowel. They was too busy cutting. They said when they went in to do a laparoscopy, that was it, a small laparoscopy. Right. With 2 little cuts. They said it'd be an hour, 8.5 hours late, 267 stitches, 22 staples and a drain. They said they had to take so much out of my stomach. So at one point there was 3 anaesthetists in the room. I think they said like 9 or 10 nurses. There was 2 or 3 surgeons, 4 specialists and 2 professors in the room. My operation was recorded. So and what it went from a little operation into them panicking, cut me open, and they're all gasping at the inside of my stomach. The doctor proceeds to climb on top of me physically with her hands, pulling out this black webbing that's attached to my pelvis. And she's there physically trying to cut it, and they're all, you can see them shaking their heads, and they're all looking inside my stomach. And
so what is this? What was this black webbing?
They didn't know what it was. They took it off a biopsy. There's some still inside me. They said that they could not remove it all. It went beyond. It was stuck to my organs. My organs are kind of encased in it, they said, which is why they had to remove my my uterus, my womb, everything. They took everything. And she said there was still some in there that we couldn't get. She said at one point I had both my hands inside you pulling this stuff out. Oh. And what we observed was absolutely horrifying and shocking. They took pictures. They took lots of pictures, and they said my pelvis had been completely obliterated from right to left with thousands of needle marks. She said it looked like someone had stabbed me thousands of times on both of my pelvises. Oh, that's
unusual. Now, when doctors take pictures, or they actually take parts of the, I guess the abnormal tissue, they don't let you have it, and they don't let you see it.
They took biopsies, but I'll get to that in a minute. So this is part of my discharge notes, And as you look down there, it said findings about my ovaries, blah, blah, blah. Right, with adhesions, it said, so it says there, findings, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it says
pelvis obliterated with adhesions from left to right. So my pelvis was obliterated with these needle marks from left to right.
oh.
So
They don't give a diagnosis, though, right?
no, she said it was. They asked me, they questioned me. There's 3 doctors after the surgery, 3 surgeons came around. I think one was an Italian doctor, one was he looked like he was from Africa, and another doctor questioned me for quite a while about where I've been on holiday, where I've been living, what had happened to me, had I stayed with friends, had I stayed with relatives, had I donated organs, had I donated tissue. They wanted to know my previous operations. They give me a right grilling. I'm like, and it was no to everything. And I said, look, I've had problems for years. They couldn't believe that they couldn't. They were kind of overwhelmed by it. So I'm trying to go back now.
Yeah, you have to X that out.
Yeah. 1 second, X out. Okay, and then so that was that. This I'm just going to show you quickly. This was this was my this was the image given to me as one to me. I'll show you mine and I'll show you my partner's. There's mine. And if you have a look, it's inside past the stomach, just beyond the liver there. That's where the X's are on there. And it tells you where the markings were. They've circled it on there and they've given you the dimensions there. Basically, that's where the damage was, and that's where the marks was. Now that was.
I see a lot of blacked out information. Is that confidential or something?
Yes, yeah, it's like my emergency number, my GP's name, my hospital reference number, things like that. All my medical record numbers.
So it has nothing to do with the government. It was a hospital.
No, hospital. It's got my name on there. You can clearly see my name. It's just got my address blanked out, my telephone number, my next of kin in that. And this is Marco's, sorry, my partner. So there's exactly the same point, just below the gut, right side to the liver, at the bottom, exactly the same spot.
So this is your partner's diagram.
Yep.
Wow, that is unique.
So not just my medical evidence, this is doctor's evidence, and they also have scans and images at the hospital of that.
Yeah.
This is the picture of my leg, and I circled it because I think I went back to hospital, something had happened. And or was this at home or at the hospital? Can't think. Wait till the picture comes up and I'll show you. It's good to us. Okay. There you go. So the bottom one was the first one that appeared. The second one was number 2, which appeared. And I've circled them like that, and I've got, looks like I've got black marks or bad hairy legs. It's actually not. I've got another picture. I'm not sure if it's on here.
Could you blow this picture up a little bit?
Oh, there you go. What happened was I woke up one night, my leg was hurting where these holes were, and my leg started glowing red, bright red.
And did it burn?
It did burn like hell. When it looked like someone put a flashing beacon inside my leg, and I had to go to hospital.
Right.
So
I got similar holes, and my leg was burning, and it never itched. No itching. No flaking. No scabbing. Yeah.
So this one here, that is the actual mark of where they had this machine in my chest, just below my boob, my left boob. There's the hole. That machine went in there, and I've got one on my lower tummy where it went into my stomach.
Oh.
And then this, so just imagine, I'll show you one of my leg. Now this is my leg. So this is what happens after, years later, you have stuff burned into your leg. Each time you knock your leg, just got to knock your leg, this is what happens. So you have an anonymous lot. Sorry, I can't get this any bigger. There you go. So you have the 2, like you can see the holes at the bottom. You can see a giant lump that comes up in the middle of my leg, and the doctors don't know what it is. I've had scans and x-rays on it. My leg swells up just twice its size. I ruptured my veins, I've ruptured my legs, and they don't know what's caused it. But they said it looks like tiny incision marks within my leg.
Oh.
I do have some good pictures with bruising and blackness on, but
boy, the ET race that you're dealing with, they're kind of mean. It looks like. I mean, they
get so imagine going for your passport. So I was on this at the time. I had these how can I explain? The time I was having the thing with the babies, with the clones of me, they were showing me the babies and clones of me. And I woke up, had a bit of a sore throat, didn't think of anything at all was wrong. And then so I went to get my passport photographs. There was no actual marks on my body. Went into the post office at Bitton with my mother. My face is blacked out.
Can you blow that up a little bit more, Tina?
That's
about it, I guess.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you
go.
They blocked my. My face wasn't shown for a couple of reasons. One was for security, and one was it was an issue with the magazine with eye scanning. But now I went there. I didn't have not like now. I didn't have any marks on my neck. When I went there, all my neck was white. This marks only showed up when my pictures came out, so I wasn't aware there's any marks on my neck. My mum freaked out, saying, "What the bleeding hell's happened to you?" She pulled my hair back. She couldn't see anything. She said, "There's something wrong with that camera. We're going to a different store to get your passport pictures taken." So we drove about half a mile down the road to a post office at Woolworths in Woolston, and had my pictures taken there, and they came out exactly the same. Made an appointment with my GP, and went to see my GP, and he said, "Tina," he said, "all I can tell you is to go back in 3 to 5 days." He said, "There you go." This is 5 days later, by the way, and you can see that they've healed. So it wasn't, you could generally see that the pictures healed. He said certain scars, mainly operation, deep tissue bruising, only shows up under certain light. He said, "If I was you, I'd go take your clothes up and have your picture taken." I said, "I'm not taking my clothes up in the middle of Woolworths for anyone." He said, "You probably have other markings." Now, they're the markings around my neck. That's where this machine was holding me up. If I go back to the first picture, see if I can blow.
Do you remember waking up in the morning and having a pain in your neck or something?
Yeah. I remember the episode. I remember being hung up next to hundreds of people. What you can't see there, you might just be able to make out, but I've actually got the originals. Just below this red circle, each side, you'll see faint little marks. There's actually red circles that were imprinted on my skin, just below each collarbone, where this thing came up and held me under. It was like a fish hook that went down in the back of your neck, ran up underneath your arms and under by your throat. It was holding hundreds and hundreds of people up, and I was one of them.
Oh. Could you identify any of the people, Tina, on board that ship that's going through all this?
No. I've never seen him before. Never seen him since. There was hundreds of people up there.
Were they from different countries?
Yeah, there were men and women. The bloke next to me, I didn't even know that I was hung up. I was probably about 12 to 16 feet off the floor. I didn't realise that till this conveyor belt thing moved sideways. And there was hundreds of people just hung up there, and this thing turned, and there's a guy next to me, I would say browny gingery hair, in his late 40s, with a silver brownie suit on. Right, this picture's here now. This is taken about over 10 years, 15 years since my hysterectomy. Right. I went to bed one night. I'd taken a week, thought I'd take bad sleep, and a bright white light flash. Woke up, and I had wanted to turn over, and I couldn't turn over. I pulled my dressing gown back, and this appeared literally within hours. Like, I went to bed, woke up, and I woke up with this. Went to bed flat as a pancake. I woke up with this. Now this is. I've had.
What is that? It looks like you're carrying a baby.
Yes. So this was taken about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I think I was 50 or 51 at the time. And I went to bed, woke up, bright white light episode, and it's just like I looked like 9 months pregnant. I couldn't go to work. None of my clothes fitted me. I'd had a hysterectomy. I was going through the change of life. I still am. I was on HRT, had no womb, went straight to A&E. Went out there, they scan you and take it, like they scan you. I spoke to the doctors, they took blood and said it's a result of pregnancy, because they said my something hormones were up. I said, I'm an HRT, I don't have a womb. They said, there is no baby. He said, but it's a result of pregnancy. I said, what does that mean? A result of pregnancy? How can I be pregnant? I'm over the age of 50. I haven't had a womb to 10 to 15 years. I've been an HRT for 10 years. I went to bed flat as a pancake and woke up like that.
Oh. So, and there's no baby inside. So
no baby inside. And by the next day, it'd gone. Went to bed the next night, woke up the night after that, and they're gone.
Wow.
Completely flat.
That's amazing. Yeah, that your medical evidence and facts is just mind-boggling. We're at the middle of the show, so I'm gonna just make a station ID. This is Dave Emmons with a Strange Reality Show, and we have Tina Bird that is letting us into her life and her life of abductions, and she's a contactee. And I wanted to ask, you said something about your mom a while ago. Is it traveling in the family? Are they doing this DNA thing through your family and your bloodline, Tina?
I think, do you know, it wasn't until recently that I didn't even give it a second thought, but I have thought about it. And I'm going to say yes, because I think my father may have knew things. My father was killed when I was very young. But my auntie Pat, oh, sorry, I shouldn't be saying her name, but my auntie, bless her, she's in her 80s now, said as a young woman, she believes she was taken because she went to bed one night. She had a strange feeling, you know, went to bed like she was floating and flying, and woke up in the morning and she has holes in her stomach, which are still there today. All across her lower stomach and her abdomen and across her pelvis, which are still there today. I'm O-Rhesus negative. My mum, so get this, my mum has an inauditory left canal brain tumour. It stopped growing, it doesn't grow. She was diagnosed with lung cancer 2 years ago. It's not grown. So she has lung cancer and a brain tumour that does not grow.
Now, has your mom ever talked about an ET abduction or anything like that?
She remembers flying, and she has some, like she said, she's seen some things over the years. But biologically, she grew a finger out of her hand one day. She had a pain in her hand. Within a couple of days, she had half a new finger growing out. We've got pictures of that. The doctor had to cut it off. First, he thought it was some lesion growing, but actually started to grow skin and a fingernail on it, and they cut it off. They kept growing back for about a year, and they kept growing it off.
Do you know that you're lucky to see all these things or know what's going on with the ETs? Because 50% of the people that's been abducted, they don't even know they've been abducted.
Yeah, people say, "Oh, what's so special about you?" I'm telling you, people have been abducted. 90% of the people in the world have probably been abducted, and they don't even know it. But it's just, I'm unfortunate because I remember it. My mum has an elongated bone in her neck, and once or twice, I can honestly say, I never believed in telepathy. I thought it was a myth. I think telepathy is, or premonitions, is a side effect of being abducted. I think it's a side effect of being in the link too long or talking to them. Once I was out in the car with my mum, we stopped at this cemetery, and all of a sudden, I don't know what it was. There was it was actually a voice in my head. I'm going to sound crazy. It was going red alert, red alert, red alert in my head. And I looked at my mum, who was like staring at me across the car intently, like my hair was on fire. And all of a sudden, I look round to my right, and there's this huge, white, thin bloke, about 7 feet tall, blonde hair, right, really white face, with his red tracksuit on, and he was storming along like a soldier in a bright red tracksuit on. And my mum couldn't move. I tried to walk around the car because we were both fixed on him, and I tried to walk around the car to stand next to my mum. And when he'd gone, he kind of walked off up the road and through the bushes. And she said, "Do you know what, Tina?" She said, "I thought you were talking to me, saying red alert, red alert, red alert." And I said, "I was." So there you go. And then I fortunately suffered a miscarriage. And the night before the miscarriage, I thought it was a dream. And the baby, I went to sleep. The baby's going, "Mummy, you're hurting me." And I lost the baby. And it was then I found out I was O-Rhesus negative, which means that my body was attacking my baby and it was killing my babies because my babies were positive.
Now, you actually had a miscarriage and you saw the miscarriage, or did the ETs come?
Baby, the night before the baby, I've been pregnant a few times, and then when I've gone to do another pregnancy test or gone to a scan, there's nothing there. They said, "Oh, look, you've miscarried."
So you think the ETs are taking the embryos or the baby, Tina?
That gives us, so going back to my holes in my pelvis. So when they took me with a neck incident, what happened was, so it was like 3 or 4 days in a row, and it all seems to be like the worst time, like the end of the year towards the end of summer. And I woke up really alert, checked the house, had this really strange feeling. I felt really alert, checked all the bedrooms, the garden, everything, all the house was locked up, everything. And then went back to bed. My husband was asleep, everything. Went back to bed. Next thing I know, I wake up and I'm on this bench, this table thing, and I am like only at a 30-degree angle, and I don't like being laid down. I hate it. I don't like it. And all of a sudden, the one that knows me just flashed his head like that over me, and everything went away. They didn't put me to sleep. He didn't talk to me in my head. The second I saw him, I felt at ease. It all went away. I don't know why. I didn't question it. It just looked familiar, like you'd see your nan, and you felt reassured. And then everything. I think they moved me, or they did something, because when they moved me, it's like a different scent in your head. It was a different Wi-Fi. And the second I could hear, the second I knew I'd moved, because I stopped seeing out my eyes and I could hear in my head. Now it's like a two-way mirror. They can hear and see you listening. And I could hear the one that knows me wasn't far away. I could tell he was off to my right. There was at least 8 to my left, because when they start, I can pick up between 1 or 2. It's took me many years to work out. I can hear up to about 6 or 8, but it's so fast. After 8, forget it. There must have been a good 16 of them there. It's like a buzzing noise, and you can't hear anything. You stop seeing. And that happened. And then next thing I know, I started seeing out from my eyes, and for a second, and then I could see. But he was talking to me, so I knew I was in the link. But my eyes were open. I couldn't move. I could just see down my body. I was naked, and I had this rag, some type of rag on me. And he said to me, I could get up. They'd sit me up. I could get up. This is the first time I've ever been allowed to walk about. He said, but I had to agree to behave. And I said, okay. I don't remember saying okay, but I thought in my head, yes. So they must have read that as I've spoken. And it went all bright white light. Next thing I know, I'm physically stood up with this rag on me. I feel like, now I'm allergic to anaesthetic. And if I even walk into a room where someone's using gas, I can taste it in my chest.
Yeah.
Or, and then, when they give you a sedative and it's bitter and you can taste it in your chest and it goes around your body.
Right.
They gave me a sedative. They gave me something because I could taste the bitterness in my chest.
Wow.
I think.
Could you tell us on board, when all this was going on, and you saw this one that kind of flashed over your face, how many different ET races were on that ship? Were it just 1 or 2, or I've got I don't know what I did with that. So it was the one that knows me. It was him, but they have these little ones. The one that knows me is probably about 4 to 5 feet tall, like a oval kind of pointy, a bit more of it on like slanted down at the chin. People say like these eyes, but they're not. They're more like apple seeds. You see, like apple seeds. They're like that. They're like apple seed eyes. But when you look really close, it's like you can see lenses under them. And they got like no nose, but like 2 holes and like a slit for mouth. I couldn't really see any ears because he was looking at me front on. So yeah, and they're very thin, and there was like a couple of them there. But to me, they felt like angry and aggressive. But it's hard to explain. They don't. The other ones, getting back to it, the other ones are smaller. They work in groups of 3, and I call them like the little jelly bellies. They look like they're about 3 feet tall. They're not grey. I don't know why people call them grey. They're like glowing white beings. And they've got like a tiny, very small pot belly, and you can only distinguish them. They do have some varied skin tone. That's about it, but they all look identical. They do talk to each other, but they never talk to me. And I've got the presence. They've all been men. I've only ever seen a female once, and I got the presence of a female once, and it wasn't there. I got the presence. They were all male, and the one that knows me is like a very familiar scent in my head. And so you didn't see no little gray like most people see.
They're not grey, they're glowing white. I think it's the light you see them in, or how awake you are, because it's very black and very dark. If you saw something like in the dark that looked white, it would probably look grey. But I think because I was awake, I'm allergic to it, so a lot of things don't work on me. So, and the sunlight sometimes affects me. So I don't know. So these things were glowing white. I was as close to them as I'm close to this computer screen, so I've seen them close up, and you don't forget the horror that's looking at you.
Yeah.
So they were anyway, they were there. That's the two. I have seen other beings like the long snake octopus thing. I thought it was going to kill me. I thought it was going to eat me, but that was a little bit after this.
Would you equate that to a reptilian as we talk about that?
I actually have. I drew a picture. I have a picture. And
well, you can hold it up to the screen.
yeah, yeah. I just got to grab it 1 second.
Okay, all right.
So
Okay.
I took some pictures and I made them painters and I made them into photographs. So
Okay,
that's the one that knows me, and that's the black pod, and this is the white thing. It came over this bed I was on. It came right up. Its neck was this bit here is about 11 to 12 feet tall, and this thing was right around like some computer or some panel, and it came out over the bed. I was laid flat, and they were all huddles. The only time I've never felt fear from them, or they felt frightened to hell. They didn't want to be in the room. This thing was, they were all huddled in the corner, and this thing came up over my legs, and it stopped over my stomach, and it reared up, and I thought, I'm going to die. It's going to eat me. I'm going to die. That's the only time I think I've ever felt flushed. Couldn't feel anything before. Couldn't move, couldn't scream. I thought, I'm going to die. And this thing came up to me. It had like a giant, like triangle-y head. Its eyes were huge, but it had lenses, and it didn't want to connect with me. I think it just wanted to see me with its own eyes. It looked at me, it all went bright white light, and that was it. But that's the picture of the planet thing they took me to. They took me to there, and that was it. And then the other, I did a picture of all of the different types. There you go. So this is a picture of all the different types that I've seen. This is the one that knows me. This is the little jelly belly one. These are the two older ones that were stood at the back where we were on the conveyor belt. That's probably about the size of the one that knows, them. And that's the grey wrinkled one. It's like a tan colour with a heart-shaped kind of head, and it had tan with wrinkles.
I've seen one like that. Yes.
Yeah.
You can almost put a credit card in the wrinkles.
Yeah, but the wrinkles look black, and I got the thing. It was very, very old. And then I got that's their energy, how they use their energy. They was trying to distract me one day, and then that's how they use their energy. It goes around the ship, it heats up, it goes into this like box, like a chamber, and it has 3 things in it, and it goes in, and the wave splits off and goes through. This other thing goes down. They speed it up to slow it down. It rejoins, goes out the box, and they reuse it.
Did you telepathically get this information, or did they?
What happened was, as they injected me with this stuff, and I went to walk forward, they wanted me to look at these pods. This thing, what I'm going to call one of the white ones, ran towards me, come out of nowhere. There's like hundreds of pods. It's like inside a huge like warehouse thing. This thing shot out of nowhere. It was so fast, and it stopped about 10, 12 feet away from me behind a pod. It saw me as a direct threat. It came out of nowhere. Excuse me. It did not want me there. It saw me as a threat. It then came out and moved about 6 feet in front of me. And then that's when I realised it was like a dog on a chain. And if I didn't behave myself, it was over in more ways than one. And one that knows me was to my right, and he was. Now, they can deliberately block you from hearing in their link. Right. So there's one link on the ship, and it's like a hive mind. But he was linked to me. There's mine in his link. Now I could feel the others pushing against that link. Whether that made it easier for me and him, one-way directional, or they didn't want me seeing what the others knew. Because once you can see the others, you can hear and know what they know. And anyone that's ever been abducted is in that link. Yeah. So if anyone says they've ever been abducted, anyone ever gets, they are in that link.
A contactee, as we would call it.
Yeah. Because it goes up and down like a slide scale. Anyway, getting back to this, so and he was ordered to stand back. He said she's inquisitive kind of thing. And people say, how do you know? How do they know your language? And they use your vocabulary. It sounds strange. When they're talking to you, they do words in your head that you already know. That's the way I look at it. And he's just like, she's inquisitive, step back. And I think because it was an experiment and there were so many of them, this thing stood back, but it didn't want me there. And then I walked forward. It was like walking on grey, brittle concrete. And all of a sudden I stopped, and I was about 3 feet away from his 2 feet. And it looked like a giant pod, about 2 3 feet off the floor. Wow, so it is about this much off the floor on a like a little thin pedal stool. And it's about 2 feet wide, probably about 2 or 3 feet tall. And it looked like black shiny glass or black shiny metal. And then when I got closer, I stopped. Now, I think they were preventing me from doing anything. And there was a little conflab about what was going to happen. And I could only hear his side of it. And it was, she's just inquisitive. She's not going to hurt it. She just wants to see what's inside it. I think he was telling him what I was going to do. And I was given permission to touch it. So as I leant forward, I could see this red dot inside it. And as I leant forward more to look over the top, I placed my hand on it. Now, the second I placed my hand on it, and I could never feel before, this thing felt cold. And in a split second, because I felt cold, he'd already given me a reply. It's like, no, look closer. And I thought, look closer. There was a baby inside. It was a baby about 8 months long in digestion. And this tube was going into it. And it was a human baby. And he said, don't worry, the baby is not being harmed in any way. The baby is warm. See that red light? The red light is because he didn't want me freaking out. He was really trying to keep me calm. He was really talking really fast. It was like a cord being pulled through your head. So he's telling me, communicating to me that be calm, the baby's fine, we're not hurting it. It's cold on the outside, but it's warm on the inside. And that's when I learned the other information that they don't tell you is they can't make embryonic fluid to the same level as a human. I learned that. That's artificial embryonic fluid, probably what they need humans for. And then as I leant over and put my hand fully down to touch it, I stopped hearing him. Now, whether that, I put it down, didn't raise my other hand, I just put my hand on it, looked over, I saw 3 tubes coming out the back, 1 at the top, and there was 2 there, and it went down like 3 rows on the floor, and there were 3 rows of 3 all the way back. There was hundreds of them, could have been thousands of them, like these pods, and they were all girls. All of a sudden, it was like millions, I wouldn't say billions, hundreds of little voices of little girls, like little pipsqueaks going off at the same time. They were all my voice, all females, and I was in my own link with all these girls. And I'm not sure what happened. Either they did not want me in the link, they don't know how I got that link, they don't know. And the second I let my hand go, whether they pulled me off of it, I don't know, because I don't know how I broke the link. They freaked out. The second I pulled my hand off that, they all ran in my head like ants, like metal ants. They were all in my head. The one that knows me had gone, they'd overtaken him, and they'd hundreds of these metal ants are turning everything over, old memories, everything in your brain. Doesn't matter if you ever told a lie, they weren't interested in anything in your brain. They wanted to know how I knew that they were all female. I don't know. I just knew that they were only breeding females, and that really freaked them out. They didn't know how I knew, because they were all female voices. I didn't hear one male voice. They were all female, and they didn't know how I knew that. I don't know how I knew that. And that really freaked them out. And then I stopped hearing them, and I was just still for a second. And then I think if you're freaked out or agitated, they can't do anything with you. So to calm me down and move me away from the pods, because it was not a pleasant experience, let me tell you that. I think he retook control of the experiment, but I think he was under tight reins. And this red light went between my legs, through the floor and up and out of sight. And then about a minute later, I presume it's about a minute later, happened again like a cycle. So they was trying to distract me. And he said, that's right. He said, that's our energy. And I must have said, can I follow it or see where it leads? Or they weren't really paying attention. They were still having a conflap. He was watching me. I took a couple of steps forward, and he was quite amazed that I could tell what was going on. So he showed me, put an image in my head, that he showed me how that energy worked on their ship. It goes around their ship, and it goes in these little boxes. It's renewable, and they just use it like a spinning circuit with a wave on it. It's that simple, and they just reuse that energy. And that's the picture he showed me. That's the picture he showed me.
Wow. That's the what kind of I guess they're getting this energy, but what type of fuel are they using to charge that energy?
I don't know. He just showed me. Just show me.
Okay, another question they wanted to ask. You saw this baby, and
Yep.
you were kind of panicked, and you said you're clone babies, and she wanted to meet you.
So what happened after that? Literally, because they didn't want me going any further, because they were freaked out that I know they were freaked that I knew that there was a sound wave. They were freaked out that I knew that I connected to the females. They don't know how I did that. I formed my own link within their link. They don't know how I did that. That really, Either I was a security issue or that freaked them out. They did not know how I did that. I was yanked back to this bed like a dog on a lead. I think that's probably how I did my neck, to be honest with you. And then I was on this thing, and then the one that knows me came over, and then I'm not sure, he must have known something wasn't right, and he tried to look at me to calm me down, and I was a bit calm, but I was agitated. I didn't know why. And he said, "I'm going to sit you up." He said, "Would you cooperate?" And I'm like, "Sit me up," because I was laid flat. I wasn't laid at a 30-degree angle. I was laid flat, and I don't like it. And he went quiet for a second. I couldn't hear anything, and then he came back and said, "If you agree, I will sit you up. You must behave. You won't be allowed to move." He said, "But I will sit you up." He said, "You might be able to move your eyes." He said, "But you won't be allowed to move. Do you agree?" And I must have said yes. Because when I woke up, I was sat up at a 90-degree angle, and my face must have been physically turned because I could see my shoulder. I couldn't see my body. I could just make out a piece of rag on my arm. And the top bit of the thing was I was naked down to here, and I could just see my arm, and my neck was turned this way. That's when I saw there was loads of them. There must have been about 16 or 20 of these little things, but they were back. They were set right back. The one that knows me must have been to behind my head, and I wasn't sure what was going on behind my head, but I was sat up. I was still on this, sat up, still on this bed. No, I wasn't. I was sat up on the bed, and I was looking forward the first time. They moved my head the second time. When I looked down, so I was there. This one that didn't want me there, the one that was angry, he did not want me there. He saw me as a threat. Carried this bundle over, and he was carrying it like it was in front of him, like he didn't want a paint dripping on him or something. He was carrying it at arm's length kind of thing. And he got to the end of the bed where my feet was. And I didn't know what he had in his hand. I didn't have a clue, and I wasn't expecting it to be a baby, and I definitely wasn't expecting it to be a clone of me. He pulled this, it was like this, holding it. He pulled this cloth back, this rag, and it was me. It was me. It was it was a picture of me. It was an image of me. It was a clone. It was a clone of me.
Clone, yeah.
She had bright pink skin. Her hair wasn't right, like thick hair like mine, thick dark hair. Didn't look quite right, but her face was like bright pink. She looked really pink, and she opened her eyes. Her eyes were black, and I freaked out because she stared at me. It was me, but them. It was me, but them. And I must have freaked for a second, because next thing you know, I'm laid back, bang, flat. And everything went quiet. Everything went black. Couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't hear anything. And the next thing I know, I was laid down flat. The one that knows me is physically looking over me. I've obviously been laid down flat. I'm restrained. Couldn't even move my eyeballs. And he's saying to me, I start hearing in my head, I can hear them pushing against the link. It's just me and him. I'm kind of he's like trying to calm me down. And he's saying, and I think I was trying to ask, because your emotion, they see it as a question or an answer. He's going, "You frightened the baby." He said, "They just took her away for her own safety. They see me as a threat, and they thought because I freaked out that I was going to harm the baby." Now, if I wasn't subdued, I could easily grab one of them. I could easily overcome a ship within seconds. Anybody could. I could have grabbed those little buggers. They're so fast, but I could easily overcome that ship. I was heavily sedated. And he said, and I couldn't really ask a question, but it was silent, and it was like he wanted to ask my permission if it was all right for him to ask me a question, kind of. That's the way I felt like he was asking. It's the best way I can put it. It was more of a feeling, and it was she wants, like, what happened, and he wasn't answering my questions, but he was like, she wants to meet you. Are you okay with it? Kind of, do you agree? And if you agree, you won't be allowed to move. And I'm like, no, I'm not agreeing to nothing. I want to sit up. He said, if you sit up, would you agree to behave? And that's when I woke up and they turned my head, and my arms were, I think my arms are like that, or they were down like that. I couldn't, but my head was turned this way. They turned my head, and I could see this thing approaching me again, the one that didn't want me there. And again, he was holding her at arm's length, but this time bringing her up to my face, to the side of my face. And he pulled it back, and instantly she linked with me. Now, they weren't in that link. They couldn't see in that link. It was a one-on-one bond, which is my Bible. It's called The Bonded. What it is she looked at me, and I was inside her head, and she was in mine. The first thing I noticed is she was black inside. She didn't have completely void of emotion. She was like, biologically, she was a clone of me, but with their black eyes. Physically, biologically, she was me with their black eyes. But she had all my memories to like 8 months to 2 years before. So you imagine a baby about 8-9 months along, like just under a year old, 8-month-old baby, having memories of a 40-year-old. Being born with the memories of 40-year-old. She had my memory, and there was a cut-off point. I could see all of her memories to that cut-off point. Then it was bird, then it was black. And she said, it was like a mirrored voice. She said, so I know she'd been in the link because it's like a scent. Once you have that scent, it's like a taste. But if your auntie was baking bread and you ate that bread, you know the scent and taste of bread. And if you ate it anywhere else, you knew your auntie made it. It was a bit like that. And she said, I've taken a picture. Can I take a picture? I'm like, yeah. And she kind of blinked her eyes in my head. And I said, can I see, what have you done? And she showed me this picture. I looked awful. My hair was a mess. I looked bright pink. I looked flushed. I looked like I'd been dragged for her hair backwards. And it was physically, I didn't know I was sweating. There was like water, sweat running down my face. I didn't realise I was even hot. My clothes, this rag looked wet. But this picture also contained like my blood pressure, my pheromone level, my hormone level, my feelings. This was like a digital image that captured everything, all my essence in one go. And I said, why have you done that? And she said, so I can show the others. She meant the others in the pod. All these hundreds of babies. She said, they're all me. They're us. They're us. And I said, why have you done it? She said, because when they're ready to leave, when they're born, when they're ready to leave, she said every single one of them will want to know where they come from, and they will. I'm in there, so they in their hive mind is a book. Yeah, I've got a digital copy of me in there, so they could go. So like Tina Bird, get the baby up, and then so everything me and this baby exchanged, the feelings, the emotion, where I'm about, who my mum was, all my history, all my biological history, all my medical data is in this book. And then once one baby has an image, it's in that link for lifetime, and every single clone of me that they make just got to go there, and it continues them on.
Well, I've heard they allow you to see your baby or your clone one time, and that's it.
That's it. They took her after that to break the link. She didn't want to share any more with me, because she had everything she wanted. She just seemed quite ambivalent to it all. But she wanted to meet me, so that's why they wanted that bond. She needed that bond, otherwise the babies won't grow. So people say, why did you call it your book, The Bonding? Because all this seduction wasn't about me. It was about her and what they needed for her. They couldn't give a toss about me. They wanted that. And because I'm not a very maternal person, now I'm like in my 50s, I've never been a bit boyish in my life and what have you. I'm a very stern person. I was more shocked about what they'd done. She's exactly like me. So they broke the link, took her off, covered her up, and this thing went away with her. And I began to freak out. And I'm like, why are you taking her? I think I just wanted to know. I wasn't upset that they were taking her away. I just wanted to know what was going to happen to her. They never answered my question. They never told me what was going to happen to her or where she was going. I think at that point they tried to put me back. I think that's when things went wrong. And everything went bright white light. And then I woke up in this room. It was like a smaller room, and it was like hundreds of TV screens, but it looked like they had cartoons on it. And here, I think he was trying to show me things, but it was too fast. It's like a silver cord being pulled through your head. He was trying to calm me down, and that's when I realised he kind of said yes, but he didn't want to say yes. He was letting me kind of put it together that you have to be calm for them to put you back. It's probably why when Travis Walton freaked out, that would explain a lot of things. I'm just surmising that. Because
they don't understand our emotions.
No,
they don't. That's why they try to, when they come down here and they're walking amongst us like the Dr. David Jacobs, that they don't have emotions that they're trying to learn.
Yeah. So because he didn't know what I was doing, he knew I wasn't going to be a threat to him. I think he knew that because they know. I think because you get your anger and everything boils up to a point. I wasn't at that point, so I think psychologically they needed to quiet me down so they could put me back. Whatever they were giving me wasn't working. So I'm there and I'm like sat up. But this time I thought I was like kind of stood up, and he's going, look there. And I'm like, look where? And I just see all these TV screens kind of getting bigger, like I was moving closer to him. And he's up there in the top left. And I looked at this top left screen. It's like a giant TV screen, and I got zoomed into it. And when I was zoomed into it, they put me into this clear bubble. They put me in this clear bubble, and it was like being strapped in the front of a rocket. And I must have asked a question because not that you could fit, but there was like a millisecond, or it could have been longer. I'm just saying it felt like a millisecond. It was instantaneous, but there was like a millisecond gap, and I was in this bubble. But it was I think he was in the bubble with me, behind me, but we was in this bubble, and he was showing me the journey. And he took me. We were in this bubble, and it's like being strapped to the front of a rocket. And in like a couple of seconds, we flashed past something, and as we come to like a stop, I could presume the planet I drew it looked like Jupiter. I'd never seen Jupiter. I'd never been in space until that second. And this thing, I kid you not, mankind never made this thing. It looked like the closest thing I could say it looked like was a huge black 27 football pitches, if not bigger, huge, long, looked like a black submarine with this grill on the front, and it was just under the right side of, because we flashed past something silver, but and when we were underneath it, you couldn't even see the planet. This thing was huge. Mankind never made that. And we came in like underneath it, but side, and we never went into it. What happened then was there was a flash of light, and we were inside. And next thing I know, when we were inside it, there's this little one, even smaller than the other ones, bright white he was, and he couldn't give a toss. He looked at me and got on with his work. He just stood there. He was just pushing this like panel. He's putting his hand on this panel, and it was lighting up, and he was just touching the panel, and he was looking at the panel, completely didn't care less about me. And again, I had the feeling, I didn't have the taste, but I had the feeling I was being controlled from behind, like an urge to walk forwards. Can I just ask for another cup of tea? Sorry. Had this urge to walk forwards, and then I walked forwards. I went up to this, it was like a black corridor, probably about 3-4 feet wide, if that, probably about 6, 8, 9 feet tall with that. But it was all black, like a black paneling. And he's like, put your hand up. And I tried to, my hand was being controlled, and as I put my hand up like that to touch the wall, didn't touch the wall. These 3 panels appeared in the wall, and the middle panel pulled out, and as it came out, the front of it dropped down, and the light blinded me for a second, and it was bright white light, the same light they used to subdue. And he's going, look. So I had to like kind of calm down and look, and as I looked, my eyes focused in like a magnifying glass, and I had like 50 petri dishes in there, probably about that size or smaller, and each size it looked like it had something in. And when he said look, and when I zoomed in again, it looked like it was the fetus. He's going, they're babies, they're your babies. And then I freaked out again for a couple of seconds. He said, no, the light is keeping them asleep. He said, the light is keeping them asleep. And then I calmed down. He said, what's happened is the babies are asleep in there. These are all your babies. They're going to a new place. And when we get there, then we wake them up. When they're mature and they're grown, he said, they'll be fine until they get where they're going. And I must have asked where they're going. The door closed. This corridor must have been half a mile long, just the one I was in. This ship must have contained millions of billions of eggs, fertilized eggs, but asleep. And he showed me that we were back outside in this bubble, this clear bubble. We were in there, and it was like being strapped in front of a rocket. And then we just shot through something, and all of a sudden we slowed and did this like roller coaster maneuver. And then we kept going. It was like instantaneous. We were there. And I said, what was that? He said, we can't fly through black space. I didn't even realise. It wasn't until I was talking to an astrophysicist recently that there's such a thing as black space. I was such a wally. I said, I'm doing a bit dim, but is there such a thing as black space? He's like, yeah. Oh, really? He said, well, UFOs can't fly through black space, or they can't fly through black space. And then we came out above this planet. But this planet looked black with the light behind it, but it didn't look like a whole planet. It looked like the side had been sliced off of it or something. And but we flashed past this little green planet, like a seaweed moss green, and it was glowing, emanating light. And he's told me the big black planet is where the babies were going. That's where they were going. And
so you could think of this ship as being huge, like you said, half-mile long corridor. Is a Noah's Ark type thing where they plant life on other planets? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I only can assume that. I only saw this one corridor. It was completely black, and it seemed to go on. It went on, and both sides of the wall were the same. So if you think how many panels, there must have been 1 million eggs just in the corridor I was in. Yeah, easy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there is human life or humanoid figures out there in space on other planets,
Well,
and they take care of them, I guess, and they actually make them. And you're very fortunate to see this stuff in detail. It just I'm listening to all the detail that you have, and you show, you have an expression of real interest and actually some a little bit of fear that you're reliving this stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Tina, great job on that detail, really.
But people think, but there's probably a lot more I don't remember, but I can only tell people from what I see, and I'll tell you when I think, I think it's this, but I can only tell people what I've experienced. And they say, well, you sound horrified. That's because it is. It's not that I'm negative, it's horrifying. And the only other time I think I left the planet was, thank you very much. One time I think they were trying to put me back. I think it was after one of these episodes, and to calm me down. And they put me in this bubble, and I must have asked. No, if you have a thought, they read the thought as you asking a question. So that's how they if you want to ask a question, you don't realise you're asking the question. It's a thought. And when your thought pops into your head, that's like you were asking a question. So I must have said, "Where are we from?" Well, why are you here? I'm not quite sure. I don't remember asking a question. It was like, it was answered in a second. It was, I'll show you. We're in this pod. It zooms off. Next thing I know, it stops. So it was like, it seemed a very short trip, or it could have been long. I don't remember it. And all of a sudden, we're outside this planet, and we're outside this planet. We zoom in. So within like half a millisecond, we're in this planet. It must have been about 12, 13 feet off the floor in this bubble, and this grass, I can only liken it to grass. It looked like barley, but like a wheat, but it was like green barley, but it was really thick. And it was very tall because this bubble we're in, where it was just swirling the grass. I don't think there was I couldn't feel anything because I was inside this bubble, but you could see it below. There wasn't any rocks sticking out. It seemed quite flat. And all of a sudden, I'm not sure if he said, look, I don't think he did. It zoomed in. And as you zoom in, as you look, squint your eyes, it's like it's forward. It's like remote control, but with your eyes. And I zoomed in and stopped. So I must have been less than half a mile away. Then I seemed to get closer, within like 1,000 yards, and it stopped. And there was a slight mountain range I could see at the back, but the sky is not like looking at our sky. The sky seemed so far away. It was so tall, and it was like a dull. Yeah, it was illuminated, but it was like a dully colour. It wasn't like our sky. It was like our sky, but it wasn't. But it was dull, but it was absolutely huge. It was like twice the distance, and there's this man. I saw a man. It was like a horse. So I work at zoo. I can only liken it to, it was huge, big, chunky, big thing, a cross between one of those Norwegian horses or something you find in Iceland, a big thing like that, and one of those.
Right, a workhorse, yeah.
Yeah, big brother. It was absolutely huge, really muscular. You wouldn't say, it's the closest thing I can like it to. And there was a Native American man with long black hair sat in this thing. He was naked, didn't have anything on him, and he didn't notice I was there. He didn't notice our presence. He wasn't looking. There was a slight mountain range behind him. He was looking way off in the distance. And as I didn't turn my head, I think I turned my eyes, and I was trying to focus in the distance what he was looking at. All of a sudden, I shot forward down this field, down this ravine, and into the water. And as we went in under the water, I saw hundreds of other these yellow. There were pods. They looked like the bubbles. They looked bright yellow underneath the water. I don't know if it's the light. They're longer. Their beings in them seem elongated, and they looked yellow. I don't know if it was because of the water or what, but they were, like you drive a little car about, but they were inside a bubble, and there was hundreds of them in there, like going on doing it like explorers. They were doing their own thing, and didn't take any notice of me and my bubble. And all of a sudden, we shot forward, and then it came to like an underwater volcano, and there was loads of them there. We shot forward again, and you could see like all this, something like you see on a David Attenborough thing. And all of a sudden it stopped. And then he said, watch, look. When he says, look, something's going to happen, and it normally zooms in. It didn't zoom in. And this yellow beam we'd seen, something had happened to its ship. this bubble was in got too close to either inside the volcano under the water, or something happened with the core of this planet with his ship. It caused an explosion. It caused the planet to rupture. It caused a massive explosion. But then it was like he hit the pause button, because all of a sudden it was like all this blacky grey stuff. It was white that went round but out and then pushed us out. But it looked like it was sucking us in. We looked like we got chucked back. I think he zoomed us out, and as we came out of the water, we didn't go back the way we came. We went up into the sky, and as we went up into the sky, you could see these huge silver ships like the ones I'd seen outside of outside the Jupiter. Those huge silver ships and all these little round silver balls of light were coming out, and they were splitting off into ships, and they were all like going into war, a bit like the day after tomorrow. They were all going around, and they were grabbing, just taking stuff. And next thing I know, we're being pulled out again to the outside of this planet, and then there's all of a sudden you see there's hundreds of these ships, like it's a bit like Star Trek, like hyperdrive. And he's saying because they all shared the same link, when they're close to each other, like if I was close to someone I didn't know, I could link to them. Because they all share the same link, they all knew instantly what had happened. They lost a lot that day. I could feel, they don't feel sadness or whatever, but in the link, you could feel not devastation. I'm not quite sure. It was a bit like devastation, but they lost a lot. Where they meant it was research, life, their life, human life, the world, something, the universe or something. I don't know, but that's what I've got. That's what I've come across.
Did you feel that this was happening at the present time that you were there,
Yeah,
or was this a recording?
Unfortunately, he took me back. This is something that happened.
Okay.
This has happened something millions of years ago, because I think I asked where we came from, and we were out there, and he was telling me this. All of a sudden, we got pushed forward, like thrown forward like a tennis ball. And because normally when you travel in this bubble, you're there like in an instant, it's like an instantaneous thing. But with this, I could see things like whizzing by, and a planet looked like Mars, but it didn't look like Mars. It looked a different color, like a different color, and the bits of this stuff were being thrown forward. And we stopped, and we saw. I didn't see the moon. I just saw what looked like the Earth. It didn't look right, but it looked like the Earth. And we zoomed back, like we were standing back, like we were hovering. And he's going, wait. He said, look, we didn't zoom in. He's like, wait. So like, what are we waiting for? He said, look. And then when he looked, all of a sudden, it's like shrapnel, like someone firing a gun, like a dye underwater that was coming into Earth's atmosphere. And when it was hitting the planet, it was all these silver balls were hitting the planet. And he said, we got to wait and wait. He said, we got to wait. And then when we finished waiting, it looked like some of this big stuff was hitting Australia, what you would call Australia. It didn't look like Australia, but it was like, and the big chunks of this planet we came from were then hitting. After all these orb things went into the planet, big chunks of this thing was hitting us. And then I woke up next thing and I was in my room, but I think he was showing me this is not our planet, and something they did made them bring us here.
So, yeah, they showed you, I guess, the beginning of humankind or whatever with this planet. And I know there's humans out there on other planets. They're actually saying that.
Well, I think we came from another planet, but they accidentally destroyed it as an accident. It wasn't deliberate. It wasn't. I think it was a scientific accident, which is why I think they're so fascinated with volcanoes on this planet.
Yeah. Now, Tina, did they give you any more technical information? Did they?
God, I think .ts holds so much information. When you're in the link, it's hard to it wasn't until you come out. When you're in the link, you can take pictures with your own mind. I didn't realise that. And some things stay with you, because they put spider in my head, and it tried to erase things. I was just going to try and remember, but it erased everything else, but I could hang on to what I remembered. And it's like there's something on this planet they like something in the water. They like something in the water on our planet here. What else is it? There's quite a few things. They don't like our behaviour. The others that come here, he said the others are coming soon. They're not supposed to come here, but they do. Don't know what he meant by that. They asked me once to go with him. I was on this thing when they took me outside of I presume I was on a ship, because it looked like something out of Star Trek, because I'd never. People say, well, what's it like? You can't describe space because I've never been in it. It is something like looking at Star Trek, but it's more black. It's black, but it's bright, but it's black. But and it is like a bright blackness, but it's like a haze. And then they said to me, they let me walk. I was walking freely without feeling that I was drugged. And this little one walked up. It looked like it was a ramp. It looked like the side of the ship had come out, like a groove. And he walked up in his window, he put his hand up in his window, you could see out. You could see out, but I couldn't turn freely to observe to see if it was a control room or whatever it was. It's like panel control with the hands. And he said directly to me, he said, would you like to come with us? But it was like a yes or no there and then question. And he said, but it would mean never coming back. And the thoughts that ran through my head, that point, it was like a split second I could actually think. Normally you can't think, your brain's frozen. You're just like it's like you're on record and you can't speak or hear, you're looking. And it was like, I've never seen him eat. I don't want to leave my family. I want to come back. I want to see my. And they obviously took that as a no, and it was a definite no. It was like second I thought that, it was like no, that's it. What else?
Do you remember coming back? I guess, were you in bed? Did this all happen in one night, Tina?
These are different incidences. Like they can take it one night. Yeah, this is like over my whole 50 years of life. All these different incidences. There's like over the years. This is not all one incident. So this is all different.
Okay.
Bits you learn over the years. What else did I learn? But I don't think they're the only species doing this. They definitely. When they took my mum, it wasn't until recently, like a few years ago, within the last 5 years. I woke up and it was horrendous. I thought it was a bright white light, and I thought it was a dream for a second, because I was stood up. I felt stunned. I've never felt stunned before. Normally the light gets me and it doesn't work. This time I felt stunned, but I seemed to be stood up in a cage. But I was stood up, so I'm not sure if it was holding me up to stop me wobbling or what, I don't know. But I had a clear view, I couldn't move. And then all of a sudden I didn't turn my head, I looked over, and there was like a brown dentist chair, and my mum was laid on it. And I couldn't shout, I couldn't wake her up. And it seemed to be in a room. It didn't seem to be a ship, but she was probably about 20 feet less than that away from me, and I couldn't move. I just couldn't move. And all of a sudden this door moved like a camp door. You know when you go camping and some of them, you've like got a pull-up flap door, and it looked like that. And these two blokes walked in. They were dressed as men. They were human men, but one had like a white polo shirt on with thorny beigey trousers, dark brown, like a browny trousers, with brown shoes on, like loafer shoes. I'd estimate him to be about 6 foot tall, muscular but slender build, probably in his late 30s, early 40s, from his stature and voice. And he had a pig's mask on. It looked like a pig's mask that had been melting, because my eyes started to look funny when he walked in the room. I don't know if it was a light or what.
Now, when you say a pig mask, it looks like a pig in the face?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Like a Halloween. The face looked like jelly, like a jelly Halloween mask. So I couldn't recognise him. He had like human. It was human, but you could tell it was a mask. Yeah.
Now, expanding that forward, I hate to interrupt here. We're running a little bit short. I want to get some more stuff in. Cool. I know you got so much detail. Do you ever run into any humanoids that you think that you see with your third eye? I know when you're abductee and a contactee, you have a third eye increase. You have consciousness increase. Can you pick up on other humanoids that might be walking around on this earth? Have you met any, Tina?
So I how to put it? I'm not going to really answer that question. Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question. What I'm going to say,
I guess it's confidential, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question. But the only thing I can say is I think premonitions and what people call clairvoyancy, or having the ability to see something a couple of seconds before it happens, or dream. I've dreamt of something that's happened years later. I've always had that ability.
Yeah, regressed.
Like a scene, and I stood there one day and relived the whole scene because I knew exactly what was going to happen next. Or you can get up and you know what's going to happen, or you know, how can you dream of people you've never met and then years later or a couple of days later see that person, know what they're going to say, know what they're looking like, know what music they're listening to? It's like you've been there before, or it's on replay.
Or you're manifesting, right?
I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
But my friend, I did a podcast with him once. He said, Tina, sit in your garden and see if you can call something cool. Sit in your garden and focus one night. Wait till you see one of the things and see if you can like use your link, see if you can connect to it, just to see, for the hell of it. Anyway, I went out there for about 2 or 3 nights, nothing happened. I thought, for God's sake, in this particular night, I woke up in the night, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, went outside, my dog woke me up, I think he wanted a wee. I went outside to have a wee, not me, the dog. And sat there and I thought, do you know what? I'll try it. It was a lovely evening. The dog was just sat there. He flopped down. He wasn't going to come in. And I just sat down and I thought. And they view people trying to summon UFOs who have been on ships as they will come. They will come, because if you're connected to their link, they will come. I'm not sure how that works. Whether they know that you're summoning them, or it's like someone's, don't forget, it's a two-way mirror. So just supposing I'm upstairs brushing my hair and I turn my mirror around and I see you, I know that you're looking at me, but you're miles away, you're the other side of the country. So they must cross that mirror to see what I'm doing. So they must have crossed that mirror to see what I wanted, and they view it as a screaming child, like an annoying screaming child. They've just come to see what's the matter because you scream so much. That's how they view it. And sometimes if I walk past someone in the street, very, very rarely, you get the feeling you've seen someone, or you look over your shoulder and you'll see someone, the same person, 4 or 5 times that day. If they're following you, I don't know. Or you get a very strange feeling thinking, I don't know that person, just move away, move away, move away. It's like a warning system, like the red alert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Now, you say something about here, the real cost of human abduction. What could you tell people that are contactees, and it's just like myself too, what could you tell about the real human abduction cost to each person who is abducted?
So, to me, in my personal view, being abductee is fundamentally changed me all my life. It's taken my life from me. It's a secret I've had to not kind of keep, but keep at the back of my mind, hoping it would go away. It's a horror that pops up. It fundamentally affects my ability to have relationships with people and trust. I've never trusted anyone to tell them, due to ridicule, fear, or wanted it not to be true. So you have trust issues all your life because you don't want to trust people. You can't get those words out. But it does make you a stronger person for it. And people think, oh, you're a hard kind of person. You've got not emotional. You don't feel anything. I'm very empathetic, actually, to be honest with you. But and the cost is taken. I've not have the ability to have a family. It's cost me my family life. There's no more bloodline biologically for me on this earth after me. That's it. It's just cost me. I'm never going to be a grandmother. I'm never going to be a mother. I passed that a long time when I had my hysterectomy. It's taken that away from me. It's taken my unborn children away from me. My mother's never going to have grandchildren from me. And people die from being abducted. People don't seem to realise that. I've seen people die, like the Colaris incident, and there's been in all across the world, people on the island died from being abducted because the light affected them so badly they were having seizures, fits, and they died. And it takes your humanity away from you. If people believe in God or an object or person they can't see, you've even got God we trust on the American note or in your court in America. Has anyone ever seen God? No. You've got, but in that court where you believe in a figure no one has ever seen, people like me go there and give testimony and evidence. That's enough to put somebody to death. That's enough to put someone in prison for life for burglary, rape, or just on one testimony. So why is my testimony not good enough in that same court?
Mhm.
So there's the disparity. So, and it takes away from you the fundamental of being human.
Is there anything the government can do? You mentioned the government and NATO, and also you mentioned support groups. Could you elaborate on your thoughts about what the government can do and also support groups, Tina?
Today, the government should come clean. They should hold up their hands and saying, "We are sorry." The true cost is people have been abducted, have come forward, have had to undergo psychiatric evaluations. They've been locked up from their homes, not allowed to see their children, not allowed to see their families. They've been executed, live life in prison, in asylums, in sanctuaries, because they said that. They've ripped people's families apart. Those people are never getting their lives back. They're never getting an apology. They should draw their line, come forward, pay their families compensation, say, well, they basically said, now, at this hearing they had in America, yes, they know people have died from it. People have lost their lives. They know that these things, and they have bodies. Well, if they have bodies, they have it. We are telling the truth. Abductees are telling the truth. They want to turn around and say now, right, part of the UN should say, right, Tina, we'll protect you, okay? So you don't have to fear. We'll be alerted when these things come into our atmosphere. These things are coming to our atmosphere unimpeded. They're getting past our government. Well, if they can't shoot them down, they can send them off to warn them off. The UFOs are normally driven off. They're not being invited. I don't, even these do-gooders and all these airy-fairy people, like to call them, say, oh, they're so peaceful. Well, I've had a chance to speak to other abductees, and I've kind of had them over a barrel, really. So when you were 3 years old or 6 years old and you went to see these people, did they ask your permission? No. Did they take you under the guise of night? Yes. That's an act of war. When they talk to you, that's an act of treason. If you perform treason nowadays, or you took an army officer and performed, and say I'm not a little girl and you put uniform me and I'm a member of the UN, you took a member of the UN to a foreign country, you drilled holes in them, burned them and pulled parts of their organs out and made children from them, you would be hauled up in The Hague, you would be made accountable, you would be given compensation, you would be leaved, you would be given medical treatment instantly.
You're right.
You wouldn't have to fight for this. Where's your human rights? You're being diminished as a human being. Why is his human life worth less than anyone else's? Why is my life worth less than soldiers? And there's another thing that goes along with this, the environmental cost. You see all these Just Stop Oil protesters now? Well, hold on. You've got things coming from another dimension or another planet into our atmosphere. So they're poking holes into our troposphere, into our atmosphere, into the oxygen we breathe. They're bringing radiation from the Van Allen belt in. They're bringing bacteria in from outside of our planet. Is that causing ozone? They crash into the sea. Is that bleaching our seas? Is that giving our seals radiation? Is that giving our fish mercury poisoning? Is your children swallowing that? Is it causing infertility? These are things that they haven't even looked at yet. And the bigger question should be asked, and that these people they've taken, these babies are mine, they're like me, they're going to get to this planet and think, no, it's Sod's Law, I want to go and see my mum, I want to go back to Earth, I want to go back to my family. What happens if they leave the planet they're on? They're technologically advanced now, they've got the means to travel. They're going to say, Sod you this, for the game of soldiers, I'm going home. What happens if they cause havoc in the universe? Who is liable for that? And most importantly, what happens if they come back to Earth and cause havoc? Who is liable for that then?
That's some deep thinking. That's some deep futuristic. That sounds very reasonable, Tina. I think we're going to sign off now. And could you show us, you got copies of your books that you can flash to us?
So, guys, this is called The Bonded, Truth About Alien Abduction. It's by me. It is a bit large because Amazon, for some reason, for 2 years tried to publish this and they couldn't. So it is this big. It just looks like a magazine. It's only £6. If you've got Kindle Unlimited, it's actually free. It is on Kindle. And it's only £6 to buy the book. I also am an international author with my other book, The Brotherhood of the Night and The Guardians of Light. That is actually available on Kindle, Amazon, and Amazon Unlimited. And I've got another romantic book. It's called The Checkpoint. So, guys, go on, log on to Amazon. This is plain and simple. It's got my investigators report in there. People I've spoke about with, and just my account. My whole account is in there. So if you want to read more, this is the book for you.
Okay. And do you have a website or somebody where
yes,
they can Google you?
T.A. Bird. You can Google. Oh, there you go. I'm trying to start my own. There you go. So you can go. There's my email address on there. It's
okay.
T.A. Bird.
Yeah. Bird at hotmail.com.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And I've got a Wix website. It's just T.A. Bird. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and all social media platforms. Yeah, Twitter, YouTube. I'll start my YouTube channel. But yeah, interview me anytime. And if any guys want to contact me and ask me any question, I'm quite happy to answer it for them. And I do
great.
lectures. I lecture in at Watford on the 13th. I'm doing a talk at Pylands on the 20th. I'm travelling to East Anglia on the 21st, and I'm going to Manchester on the 25th, 26th, and 27th. So I'm out and about in the country, guys.
You're doing a great job, Tina. Thank you so much for that. And I've been involved in this UFO thing since I was 13 years old, and I know how you feel about a lot of this stuff, and a lot of abductees, now contactees, actually, they're calling them. And I think people listening to this are going to learn something from what you just said. And I think we need to enlighten people of what's really going on. And you just said there towards the end, stuff that I haven't heard before. You talked about the environment and what it does to us and what they're doing to us. Never thought about that, the outcome of their visitations. But I want to thank you so much, Tina Bird from the UK. This is Dave Emmons and the Strange Reality Show, and I will be putting this video up probably later on this evening. And I've got back-to-back interviews today, so I'm kind of busy. Some days you get that way, when a guest said, "Well, I'll be leaving out of town for 2 weeks. I better do it tonight." So yeah, okay, I got another one just right after you. Brad Olson is the guy that I'm going to interview later on, just in a couple hours. But yeah, I've been wanting to do this interview with you because I find your evidence and your physical evidence and all this medical stuff and your thoughts about what you've seen very detailed, and you come across very honest, very sincere, and very emotional about it. And that shows that you've been there and done that.
It's taken my life from me, and people don't understand why I'm angry about it, and that's why.
Okay. All right. Tina Bird, thank you so much. This is Dave Emmons. We're signing off, and thank you for listening or watching, and hope one day that soon that we'll be able to get back together, have another interview and talk. And with your books, we want people to take a look at the books and look at Amazon. And I always said, I told one guy at one time, I said, I'd like to have a T-shirt that says "Google me, baby." Because I'm all over Google. But you're no doubt also.
Yeah, I'm on Google. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you, Tina.